Left Behind is the segment where each day we look at stories that aren't getting the attention they need. One of the stories that really is important around the country is the topic of affordable housing. And as we're all paying attention to Iraq, that is an issue which doesn't get the attention it deserves. But today in California, in Sacramento, a hearing was held on a bill whose purpose, fueled by the developers of California, was to permit apartments to convert to condominiums with only 50% of the tenants voting to do that. On the theory that what happens in California usually happens elsewhere in the country, we wanted to look at that, and so we turned to Bertha Lewis, who's the executive director of Acorn in New York, and also to the mayor pro tem of Santa Monica, Kevin McKeown.
I actually have some good news for us. It just this minute came in. The bill was heard today, and the proponents saw it was in trouble. They put it on life support by saying it would apply only to cities with rent control, which of course would include Santa Monica. But despite the life support, the patient died today. AB 2175 did not pass out of the Assembly Housing Committee.
Oh,
so we have some celebration to do. And what was to have become a disaster in the making is now a cautionary tale. The fear would be that this bill will come back.
Well, help us understand what's at stake here if it does come back. If a rental unit, a building, under current law, what does it take for it to be turned into a condominium?
Historically, back in the 70s, when condo conversions first became a big problem in California, the legislature gave local governments the control over conversions. In other words, we could set the standards under which a conversion could happen under local conditions. This bill, or a bill like it, would take that away from local jurisdictions. Now, 232 cities and counties in California have enacted some form of local condo conversion, but in each case, there are protections. Tenants get notice, the buyers are protected, and the community's affordable rental housing stock is protected. In the case of this bill, that wouldn't have been the case. The conversion more or less could have gone forward without there being any local say. And in some cities, like Santa Monica, where land costs are extraordinarily high, that would mean that the affordable housing stock currently occupied by renters would have become condos not affordable for those people who now live in them. And there would have been a huge demographic shift in the community.
And the argument that the proponents of this are making is that it doesn't matter because rent control will still apply, and so even if you don't want to go condo, you can live under rent control.
Not what happens in the real world, unfortunately. Now, once a unit becomes condo, just so you're clear, under a bill that passed 9 years ago in California called the Costa-Hawkins Act, it's no longer under rent control, even if that condo is rented out to somebody. So the units wouldn't have been rent control. If the original owner stayed in, of course, they'd be the owner. If the person who was a tenant wanted to stay in the unit and other parts of the building became condo, in theory, yes, they'd be under rent control. But the reality we've learned is that those people get harassed out because the other owners of the units want their property values to increase, and having renters in the building depresses their property values.
Bertha, what are the politics of this? Where is the support for these kinds of changes?
Well, it's all according to who you're talking to. When you begin to have an abandonment of some public policy for affordable housing, for mainly poor people, you have folks who put forth public policy like this measure that died, and this is usually promulgated by the real estate industry. These are folks who have kind of fed at the public trough for many, many years, and now say, well, let the market decide, as if the market is the cure for all ills. This phenomenon is happening across the country. It's happening in big cities. It's happening in smaller cities and towns, because there it's just an abandonment by those in public office and our governments in general to look out for the poorest of its citizens.
Why are local developers so important to local politicians?
They're the ones that contribute money to their re-election campaigns. These are the ones who also are the places where retired politicians or politicians that are voted out go to have their afterlife.
let me ask one last question to each of you. It's the same question. To what degree does the media pay enough attention to this topic? Kevin, let me start with you.
I think the media, those who are proponents of this sort of measure, paint home ownership as the answer to all of our problems.
Yeah.
And the truth is that we've set up a structure where there are tax benefits, et cetera. But for many individuals and for working families, actually being a renter can be a better thing than being an owner because of some of the financial risks. And especially in a condo conversion situation, you become part of a homeowners association. If that association decides they want to improve the property, you have to pay your share. Now, maybe you just bought in by the skin of your teeth, and you can't afford the improvements, and now you're out of the home you thought you had forever. I think defeating this bill today, while it may only be temporary, is a great victory. I want to thank Acorn for their help on this. I know you played a big role.
Bertha, what's your sense of the media's role?
Well, the media is a very funny thing, and quite frankly, I don't think the media has ever been enamored, except for progressive media such as your show and stations like yours, who actually take on the plight of the poor and actually want to see the big picture. This is a wave that has been happening for a long time, and poor people and working families are trying to outrun this wave of privatization of schools, privatization of services. The media is always a little far behind, except for progressive media. But these kind of bills are going to keep coming, and pretty soon you're going to see a sort of crisis in housing, and we don't want it to be too late when the media wakes up and says, oh, isn't that too bad that there's no more commitment to housing our low and moderate income and working families.
Bertha Lewis, Executive Director of Acorn in New York, and Kevin McKeown, Mayor Pro Tem of Santa Monica, California.